welcome to Liquid Liner Notes, a podcast that brings you interviews from the beverage and music industries. I'm your host, Danny, aka Hip Hops on Instagram. For this week's episode, I have two of the three founders of Sundial Brewing and Blending, Mike DeMalpartida and Ian Swanson. Guys, thank you for coming on and having me out here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
And just to start out with, I guess, how did you guys meet? How did you guys become friends?
I met Ian in middle school. Yeah, I met Ian. It was my 7th grade, his 8th grade year.
Yeah.
We were both into skating then, and then both had similar interests going through high school. We're both making computer music together, and then now we make beer together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you guys start, I guess, to get into beer? Did you guys have that sort of growth moment together as you guys grew up?
Honestly, you introduced me to Goose Island IPA at a house party.
Yeah, back in high school, I'd bring 6 packs of craft beer to house parties, and everyone would be drinking red Solo cups, and I'd have Goose Island IPA, and he was like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's beer." He was like, "Oh, can I try one?" I'm like, "Yeah."
And I didn't even I didn't drink at the time because I didn't like.
Yeah. When we were 17
yeah.
probably.
And then I tried Goose Island, and I was like, "Oh, that's so good." And then we started tracking it down and bringing it around to places together. And that eventually just led to more of that.
Yeah. Shortly after high school, I moved out to Fort Collins and started working at a bar out there that just had only local stuff on draft. So it was 5 New Belgian beers, 5 Odell's beers, and then 2 or 3 Oscar Blues beers on draft at any given time.
Yeah.
So kind of helped stay ahead of the curve moving out there, and kind of as everything was blowing up out there, 2009 or so.
Yeah. And then because the beer scene out we're in Barrington, Illinois right now, suburb of Chicago, but were there breweries around here then that you know?
Probably
Onion.
Yeah, I would guess the Onion Pub.
Yeah.
The Onion Pub's been there for 20-something years, I think.
Yeah.
Wild Onion Brewing is what they're referred to as in most liquor stores and grocery stores and whatnot. But
yeah, I see their stuff I think Misfit IPA, Drago, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then did you guys? I guess when did you guys make the leap into deciding you wanted to make your own?
You got that homebrew kit from your mom or somebody,
when I
right?
turned 21, they got me a homebrew kit, and it was all the malt extract. And
Rogue Dead Guy clone.
It was so bad.
So we made a Maybach, and I was 20 and he was 21.
Yeah, we made that, and it came out terrible, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so then it was kind of how do we make it good?
Yeah.
And that's a rabbit hole that we're
started down.
That we're still in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I've heard that a lot of those homebrew packages you can get, it's impossible to make good beer. As good of a brewery as you can be.
I would guess.
Yeah, I feel those are more for helping you wrap your head around what's going on scientifically when you're making beer, and not really to
It's a great introduction.
Yeah, help you understand what's going on during the process.
Yeah. So did you guys just continue to grow maybe your equipment, or I know from reading about you guys eventually got a pilot system from a homebrew store around here.
Guy I was renting from had a pilot system that he had gotten on sale, and then we used it because he wasn't using it, and it had 20-gallon pots on it. So then we started doing with first I think it was 10, then we started doing 15 gallons, then we started getting journeyman 15-gallon barrels, and we started we had a little pyramid stack in my garage, and we were really going
very avid home brewers, brewing at least once a week, and anywhere up to 20 gallons at the time.
Yeah.
Then we upgraded our pot size to brew 30, so we could fill 2 of those barrels at once, and then stuff really got moving. Back then, it was almost all barrel fermented and aged wild saison.
Oh wow! You guys were doing that at the homebrew level.
Yeah. So we when we were brewing in his parents' kitchen, we and we grew out of the homebrew pack phase, if you will. started like coming up with recipes and going to the homebrew shop and buying grain, milling it, bringing it back, brewing it with that day, just trying to figure out a way to make the beer better. And then for like a couple of years, he was cooking in kitchens, and I was actually running the beer program at a bar down the street from here that recently closed. And I was bringing in all sorts of different stuff, and then we started drinking Wild Saison, and it was like, oh, this is what we wanted. This is like what it's all about, is essentially how we both felt. So then we started making that. Like when we started brewing on that pilot system, that's really what we were interested in. And we were hunting bottles, and it's pretty expensive, honestly. Yeah. So we were like, we should try making this stuff. So then we started brewing it about once a week. And even when we did upgrade to a barrel, like a 1-barrel brew house, if you will, we were still brewing probably once a week. And there'd just be cases of 750 milliliter bottles stacked in the corner of my bedroom, and people would be like, "Do you have that watermelon beer you guys did?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, you want a case?" like, how much do you want? There's so much of this sitting around. So started showing other people in the industry, other brewers, those beers, and they were very well received. So people were like, "You guys got to find a way to go to market." So
yeah. So what were some of those early ones that turned you on to the Wild Saisons? Just out of curiosity, were you guys getting like stuff from the import aisle from Belgium, or were you guys doing a lot more like local sours?
I remember, what was the start with an A?
Almanac.
Almanac.
Yep. Yeah. I was
those were really expensive.
Yeah. I was bringing in those kegs to the bar that I was ordering for down the street, and he was like not very happy about it because of how pricey they were. But we always made it work. We always sold them. So. One that I definitely remember, I was at Duke's Ale House, and I tried Cuvée de Jacobins on draft. It's a Flanders Red. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Flanders Red, like classic example of that style, pretty high level of acidity, great beer. But yeah, that one definitely comes to mind, and then Almanac comes to mind, as well as Allagash was calling it like Little Brett, I think, at the time, and then it became Session Brett.
Yeah.
And it was like a Brett table Saison. And it was like, oh, I didn't realize something with such a low alcohol could have so much going on. So that was like kind of where the obsession with table beer began, and it definitely hasn't gone away. It's a style that I absolutely love.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a huge like Saison fan. That's my favorite style.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm jealous of your guys' Instagram handles for sure. We can get to that later if you want to. But so I guess from home brewing, how did you guys make the leap into sort of learning to maybe scale your recipes, or what professional background did you guys have to sort of hone your skills?
So I went from, I said this earlier, but I went from cooking, and then I'd come into what was here before, the previous brewery, and asked if I could assist. And I was going around to all the like breweries in the area, just asking for like, do you want me to clean kegs? Do you want me to like, I just wanted an in, and they gave me an in with a bartending job, but then I would help them out with brewing, just to like, see how they were doing it at a larger scale than home brewing. And then, then food took over again, and then during 2020, I went back to brewing, and I was brewing for them again here, and then I was also brewing over at Roaring Table, and so I was learning a lot from them over there, and just doing a ton of research on my own as well, and experimenting quite a lot. So yeah, that's all we had to hear.
Just out of curiosity, if your chef background, is that were you like a certain style of food, or were you kind of all over the board?
Initially, my main interest was Japanese and ramen specifically, and then I got trained by like an Italian chef, but his background was in like Michelin fine dining in Chicago, and so we were always like picking at him to teach us more about fine dining and doing tasting menus and stuff like that, and then
yeah, that's pretty cool. And Mike, what about you?
Well, I mean, when he was cooking, I had mentioned that I was doing the beer buying at bar down the street from here. I ran their beer program for about 8 years. Did a lot of business with breweries like Half Acre and Dovetail and Allagash, and I mean, you name it. Left there and managed a larger sushi restaurant here in Barrington for about a year, and wanted to remove myself from the restaurant industry at all, by any means necessary, if you will.
Yeah.
So I put in my 2 weeks there. We actually left and we flew out to Vegas, and one-way ticket to Vegas, rented a car, spent Halloween in Vegas, drove out to LA the next day, spent some time out there, and then flew back. And when we got back, I went to just about like every brewery within 20 miles of here and gave them a resume, just trying to work behind their bar or work for them in essentially any facet.
Yeah.
And then ended up through his cooking, actually, and another friend of ours, ended up meeting the owners of Roaring Table, and then got the job bartending for them, and worked behind their bar for about 5 years, up until the weeks before we opened this place. They let me stay behind that bar, which is definitely very nice of them. But yeah, learned a bunch over there.
Yeah, good opportunity to learn not only the brewing side if you're helping there at Flesk here, but the business side, I guess.
Yeah, like front of house kind of. Yeah. But yeah, just restaurants and hospitality. So like all I've ever done essentially. So running restaurants and bartending in them.
Yeah. And I have to mention your wife, Diana.
Mm-hmm.
She is the other co-founder. And congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that was fairly recently. And she kind of handles, from my understanding, she handles the events and social media side of things here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And was it kind of always the plan? I know you guys started releasing beer in like April 2022 based on tracking back on Instagram.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And was it always the plan that you guys wanted to have your own space while you were home brewing? And you kind of were like waiting for the right time?
It was talked about.
Yeah, it was like we just wanted to find a way to like put our beer in people's hands and like sell people our beer to see what like the masses thought of it essentially. And then
we were always just trying to fill more barrels as well.
Yeah.
So it was always like, well, if we get a commercial space, we can fill more barrels.
And the barrels will be bigger
Yeah.
and we'll have more beer. Yeah, right.
Because then there was certain things we were seeing with the aging in those small barrels where we were like, we need larger barrels. Larger barrels would be better.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we've been
chasing larger barrels, and we still continue to chase larger barrels. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys will have a giant foeder in here one day.
Hopefully sooner than later.
Sooner,
yeah.
So the name Sundial, is that something that you guys kicked around even during the homebrew time to sort of like label your beer, or is that something you guys came up with?
No, we had a much worse name during homebrewing, right?
Did we?
Well, there was one that was tossed around that was maybe not the best.
Not PC
yeah. No. It was just not good.
Yeah.
Are we talking about cattail?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
we were trying to pick something that was like kind of in line with like our farmhouse concept, but also representative of like the area we come from. So the cattail was something that we were kind of tossing the idea around. He's got 6 trees in his backyard, so I kept saying Six Trees Brewing.
Trees was the other one
and I was leaning that way, and then the first time I heard Sundial, I was like upset to let 6 Trees go, but now when we say Sundial, it definitely makes more sense and definitely works better with what we're doing.
Yeah, we were walking around here, and there's what is it technically?
It's like a historical building. It's an old, I think it was originally a blacksmith shop.
Oh, right. And there is like a tiny school attached to it as well.
Yeah.
And it's like just across the parking lot. And in its front yard is like this massive sundial. And so we were like, what about Sundial? And it was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Deals with time, seasonality.
Yeah, we always wanted the name to be like about time as well. So we'd gone through so many trial names essentially, but I feel like everything's taken. There's so many breweries out there. So then when Sundial got tossed out there, it was like, well, see if it's taken, and it wasn't. So it's like, okay, get everything, get the Instagram, get the website, get the domain, like get everything, because we finally had landed on something that was like
So
easy to say.
Yeah.
It's about time. It's in line with the farmhouse concept, and it was like, okay, we don't have to continue trying to come up with a name. It was just something that was on like the back burner for the entire time we were homebrewing, essentially.
Yeah.
And then just before we launched our project, we settled on the name. So it was
Nice. Yeah, I love that. And I was, before you started going in about the time thing, I was like, it is perfect in the sense for what you guys are doing, because it's like, time is so important for the barrel.
Have to use it as our ally, right? Yeah.
I know Flesk was still in existence when you started releasing those beers in 2022.
Yeah.
Can you just briefly talk about maybe what that relationship was like and doing that?
So they had asked me to come on and brew, and it was like in their last year and a half, 2 years of being open, and let's see. And so I had asked the owner, I was like, yeah, like I would love to, but I really want to do my own thing. Like, is that cool if I do that here? And he was like, I don't care. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like, that's cool. And I was like, all right, sweet. So then we started filling barrels like very shortly after that.
Early 2021, end of 2020, like right there.
And then it was kind of trying to figure out how we were going to do it and how we were going to do the releases. And so eventually we would just pick a day each month, and we would essentially like put on like a release party. And we have 2 taps that are like drilled into the wall, and so that was originally just us.
Yeah.
And so we would release around 2 to 3.
3 was the last one.
Yeah, right. So typically around 2 to 3 per month. And it would just be like, and then it would be on draft thereafter, but we would do like an initial release party for it.
Yeah, get some buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how many breweries would, start out doing a table beer and then a cool shit beer with aged hops, malted barley, and raw wheat, and then aged spontaneously in whiskey barrels for a year.
Yeah.
That's pretty adventurous to start out with.
Not to mention re-fermented on Michigan peaches and then bottle conditioned with local honey. Yeah.
That's
that Spontanea peach and honey was that first one alongside the table.
That's a expensive beer, like time-wise.
Yes.
And then honey, and I know all that raw ingredients are expensive, but did you guys notice getting some buzz right away? Or, because I know it's kind of like a niche style
a little
of
bit
beer.
for sure. I remember opening for that one, and I remember somebody coming up. They were with like a group of 5, and they ordered I think 2 bottles of Spontanea, or like 3 bottles of Spontanea, and I was like, oh my god, like that's awesome. And then like they were all sitting there like sessioning the beers, and then I think as the night went on, it was like we went through.
I think we sold almost all of it.
Almost all.
We
the
saved
cases.
a case for ourselves, but like I think we sold. There's like 12 or 13 cases or something, but we just sold through all of them that first day.
Yeah.
That first capture was a couple of kegs that we had used an angle grinder to cut in half.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a cool ship back then.
Yeah.
So it was a very small batch of beer that went into that whiskey barrel for a very long time, and then tasting it 6 months out, a year out, and it was like, wow, that came along really nicely. So we got to do something with this.
Yeah. Before attempting it, I had emailed Trevor at the Guard and was like, I'm thinking about trying this. Like, what do you recommend?
Do you have any insight? Yeah.
And he definitely lent some advice that helped, I would say. A little bit of waxing the outside of the barrel for less oxidation. And,
oxygen is the enemy for that. And then before you guys took over the space and opened full time here, you guys took a trip to Belgium.
Yes.
Yeah, October of 2022.
Yeah.
And were you guys just kind of, was the concept of that to sort of get inspiration, or what was?
That was definitely some of it. It was also, we had dreamed of going to the Lambic, to Cantillon, to Driefonteinen, to, just Brussels in general for few years.
Yeah, we planned on going in 2020, which obviously didn't happen.
right,
so then
yeah.
it got postponed, and we didn't make it in 21, but then we made it in 22.
Yeah.
What was was there any major highlights? I mean, or maybe some like things that surprised you over there?
Fontaine.
Yeah, Fontaine.
Period. Unbelievable. Yeah, I was absolutely blown away. What a facility, what a staff,
Incredible experience.
Yeah, honestly. I had a great time at Cantillon, had a great time everywhere we went, but Fontaine
was a bit of a standout.
Yeah, 100%.
Was really super welcoming and kind of took you around a little bit.
Definitely.
Yes.
That, as well as the Fooder Farm at the Lambico Droom is just a beautiful place, warehouse filled with fooders. Just walking up and down aisles, listening to them talk about their process.
And they were doing it all in English.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tour
Yeah.
was in English. Yeah. Luckily for us, right? Yeah.
And the bottle selection there was just insane.
You're just flipping through pages of history
Yeah.
and
So
all
crazy.
these vintages.
Also the vintage sardines.
Oh yeah, vintage sardines, which
Yeah.
the cheese was great,
Cheese
pate was great.
Oh, the pate.
Yeah.
Pate is always.
Yeah. So
Is that space? I've never been over there, but is that space indoor or is it outdoor in a courtyard?
they have a big lawn area with a fair amount of seating, as well as a cherry orchard out back.
Yeah, cherry
and then there's a
orchard/honey.
good sized tap room inside as well.
Nice. And that was October 2022. We said.
That's correct.
And so I'm fast forwarding several months, but you guys opened this space after renovating in July of 2023.
Yes.
And how long did that renovation process take? Because I know you
Just over 3 months.
Just over 3 months, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Flex goes down end of January.
Took us about a month to work out the
all the details.
the
and then,
deal with the other guys, right?
And then
Started renovations March 1st,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
March. Yeah.
so just over 3 months.
And you guys had a vision going in of what you wanted this place to look like. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had spent a lot of time in here, and so I did a 3D rendering of what I wanted it to look like, and we bounced ideas back and forth, and we got some ideas from going to Belgium as well. So we kind of tacked those on and added it in, and then it was okay, we'll just try and execute that.
And you're just I just like how you casually dropped. Yeah, I 3D rendered the thing.
Yeah. Just learned how to use a program that people get paid a lot of money to do. And
Do you have a background in doing that stuff as well?
No.
No, you were just
No.
kind of winging it.
My dad's an architect, and his brother is also an architect, and it was something I was curious about getting into. So I taught myself how to use those programs. Yeah.
That's pretty nice. And so once you guys got everything done, were you guys doing some of it DIY, or did you guys kind of have?
we
It
did
was
almost all of it
Mostly all
DIY.
DIY. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a really super beautiful space. And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love. I mean, everything from the subway tile to the planks. I'm not sure of the
Ship
technical,
lapping.
the technical terms.
I only learned while we were doing it, right? Yeah.
But it's a beautiful space, and but so now you guys have the space to yourselves as of July, and what was that that first weekend like opening up?
Oh God.
Relief.
Relief
Yeah.
and
Anxiety
Yeah,
all mixed into one.
mixed
Yeah.
into-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spent so much time in here changing the space and doing the renovations that when it finally came time to open and there was a great crowd here, we were very fortunate to have a huge grand opening. It was awesome. But just to see the space filled with people was a huge relief. Both just look at each other oh, thank God.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
People-
just so weird because we had spent so much time in here
Alone, just the two of
alone,
us, right? And then to have the space filled with people
every
was
day for 3 months.
Yeah.
It was just, and we'd it was completely torn apart at one point, and plastic just lining the walls everywhere.
just us coming in for 8 to 10 hours a day, and it's you're chipping away at it, but that we're waiting on licensing this whole time, so keep going back and forth with the lawyer, and like, you're getting closer and closer, and the space doesn't seem like it's getting any closer, and you're like, oh no, what do we? We actually we redid the floors in the tap room, and then took like about 2-3 days off to let them sort of set before we even came back in here to walk on them. And we came back in, and Ian had redone the floors in the brewery that day, the first day that we came back. And then we got, right when he finished doing the floors in the brewery, we got a call from the lawyer saying, all right, you guys are good to brew. So it's like, all right, well, we're not going to give those floors any time to set. So almost all of the refinishing we did in there, just hot water, like a day later, 180 degrees.
It all bubbled up. And came off.
Yeah, it got squeegeed down the drain, unfortunately, but there was no time to waste by then.
There's a couple spots.
Yeah, we're still,
you guys are ready to get going, but I can imagine, like you were saying, to see people enjoying the space that you envisioned and set up, it's got to be exciting.
Yeah.
And then, so for brewing and everything, what, maybe give everyone a background of sort of like what styles you guys do.
Okay. The focus is definitely Saison. That was our initial intention.
Yeah.
And then
we like drinking lagers, so we
like
make a few of those as well.
So, and specifically pilsners. And we loved how like Saison DuPont has a pilsner, like Driefonteinen had a pilsner, and so we were like, oh, well, you gotta have a house pilsner, like obviously. So that was definitely part of the focus as well, and I think we've done a good job of making sure it hasn't gone away.
Yeah, the Pils has been on, I think, since we opened. I don't think it's ever come off the menu.
Yeah.
It's the only one.
And then expanding upon that, we just kind of do just lagers and German lagers in general.
Yeah.
Along with Belgian influenced Saisons and some
stouts
stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, and of course barrel aged stouts.
Gotta do those.
Yeah, a couple of those.
Yeah.
And are you guys having to do anything interesting? I know from listening to a previous podcast, you guys are having to condition your water. Are you guys still having to?
Oh yeah. You gotta.
You have to pre-boil all the water, and then that helps get rid of like temporary hardness and chlorine and all that bad stuff. So when we come in the next day, there's a good amount of sediment in the bottom of the kettle. So I like to believe that it's definitely making a difference.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is. It's a little like terrifying to know that all that stuff is dropping out of suspension.
Right.
So for a Saison brewery, you guys are more focused on yeast-driven beers. And have you guys sort of developed a house culture you guys keep, or are you guys kind of repitching every time?
So we have like a since okay. Let me.
It's like a few answers to this question.
When we were contract brewing, we had a mixed culture that we were using from home brewing, and it was just everything thrown into it. And so we were using that for everything. We were doing everything in oak. We knew that everything would sour over time, and so then when we decided to open the tap room and do all this, we knew that we had to have some that was a little bit more restrained on the acidity. And so we wanted to shift some of it and focus on like trying to get very Brett forward beers. And so we had played around with a few different strains from Omega, and found some that we liked, kind of had that thrown together, and we've been using that since. We still have our mixed culture,
the old mixed culture
that we still will use in oak. So that's, and then we have like a clean Saison strain as well that we'll use.
Okay.
So there's like 3
that we've been pitching. Yeah.
Nice. And making sort of like esoteric styles of beer, have you guys come across any difficulties with selling, or do you find maybe you guys being in the tap room and being able to hand sell things is a benefit. What's that experience been like?
Yeah, definitely a lot of education going on, talking people through like what we're doing and essentially like why we're doing it. But yeah, I feel like there's becoming a demand for, I feel like, these styles of beers in the market more so now than in the past. Especially lagers, obviously right now are very hot. But I feel like people are starting to stray away from their hop-driven beers and are looking for something else. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was part of the reason that we both eventually got into Saison as well. Call it the IBU wars of like the early 2000, like
Early
10,
teens.
early teens of the 2000s. And it was just like I just wanted to drink something that like wasn't the most bitter thing that I'd ever tasted on the planet. So definitely, I think there's like a little bit of a.
I feel like too with some of it, it's like our marketing has helped with like not I shouldn't say marketing, but like description wise, where we'll use farmhouse and saison kind of
interchangeably.
Interchangeably, thank you for different ideas and focus less on like trying to tell people like this was done with Brett C and this was done with
try to keep
blah,
things
blah, blah, and this was mixed, so it's
simple.
more like trying to like almost simplify it and give people somewhat of a blind taste.
Mm-hmm.
And like and like, do you like it? You don't need to know anything about it.
Right.
Do you like it? And then if they do, then great. And if they're curious, cool, we can go down the rabbit hole of explaining all the
What we did.
nerdy things that
Right.
happen to it. But yeah.
I love that. I mean, yeah, because it's even like, even in the city where there's so many breweries around, I feel like there's still a large gap in knowledge with that style. So I know it's even a challenge for people everywhere making the style. So it's admirable you guys are kind of basing your business plan on that, but you guys have the pills and stuff, which I'm sure is a
That's
big hit.
Definitely a house favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed you guys have two. You guys have a North German
Yeah, right now we
and an
have two,
American.
yeah.
Yeah, the Americana pills is
I was talking to Sugar Creek because that's who we get like most of our grain from, and during one of the drop-offs, the guy was telling me about all these different malted corns that they had.
yeah.
And he was telling me about one that was like specific to them, to Boone County. They like, I guess it was big in pre-prohibition for making whiskey, and so they kind of cultivated it and brought it back. And I was like, cool, that'd be awesome to do in like a American style Pilsner lager. And so so we got a bag of that, and then I was like, it'd be kind of cool is if we like did like the Italian pills kind of thing with it, and like did like very subtle dry hopping just to like give it a like nice little perfume on the nose, and I think it worked out. I like it.
Little like went with Cascade from Michigan.
Yeah.
So a little citrus, a little pine right up front.
Nice. Yeah. That's and so to not call it an Italian Pilsen, but to call it American Pilsen, is that just because of the corn edition?
Yeah. Well, I
Just
don't
having
know.
fun
The
with
idea
it.
to me was it was like a American Pilsner inspired by the Italian Pilsner.
I like it.
Americana for the name. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, have you guys had any major mentors while you guys have been doing this?
Ooh, mentors. Let's see.
I mean, I know you guys have a relationship with Roaring Table, and I'm that background with them, and
Lane and Ryan have always been a great wealth of knowledge. So has Mike Shalau
yeah.
with Is-Was. He's helped us out with certain questions and whatnot all along the way, from when we were contract brewing and
Home brewing even before then.
Brewing, that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, we like traded beer with him when we were home brewing.
Yeah.
after he started Is-Was? Or?
Yeah, we drove down to, when he was brewing at Mars, we drove down there and traded some beers with him and hung out and chatted for a minute.
Yeah, and that was like during 2020.
Yeah, we were standing outside. It was like raining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Definitely. Yeah, the people at like Jester King have definitely been helpful to us as well.
Yeah.
Pretty much an open book down there, like
What's
asking
his
them
name?
about
One of
the
their brewers down there, but I reached out when we were
Getting
like,
ready
right
to do
after
that
when we got in the
turbid
cool
mash,
ship,
yeah.
and I was like, what's your guys' procedure kind of looking like for this? They were huge help on that, because switching that process over to this brew house,
it's definitely a little
from
bit
a
more
pilot
of a
project was a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys. As I say, Jester King's like one of like the no pun intended, but the kings of that realm. So it's nice to have them.
Yeah.
So I know barrels are important to you guys. Do you guys have a broker or anything specifically that you like to use, or any kind of profiles you're looking for barrels?
We've used mostly a guy up in Wisconsin, barrel broker, and the best experiences I get are when I'll just like shoot him a text and be like, hey, can I just come by, like pick some barrels out? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so then I'll just like drop in and smell some bungs and be like, this one is amazing, this one sucks, but not really.
Right.
But I'll just pick out like favorites, and that's typically the best experience that we've gotten for sourcing barrels so far.
Is that like spirit and wine? Or
Yeah.
So would you guys say like you guys get mostly wine or mostly spirit?
Mostly wine.
Mostly wine.
Mostly wine.
barrels, yeah.
I mean, we played with a port barrel. We got a couple of cognac puncheons right now. But yeah, generally French oak wine barrels.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'll say one of my favorite things that you guys do is the fruit that you add to the beers. Like with the beers you guys release with the fruit have been some of my favorites because I feel like it comes across super natural and in a pleasant way, which
Thank you.
I'm a
nice
fan
to hear.
of the like Brett Ford beers as well. I'm not super big on the acidic saisons, even though there's a time and a place for that. But
Yeah.
I feel like you guys have been doing really, really good things with the fruit. Like I can off the top of my head, Oracular Rhyme was like one of my favorite beers last year.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna pick. I think last time I was here, it was for release day of this, and I'm gonna ask you about it because I think Ian told me it was your idea. But the last peach of the night.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a huge Jay Dilla fan, so
Yeah.
definitely love that music and love what he did for that music. And we used donut peaches, so figured playing on the donut album might as well.
Yeah, which I had to Google what donut peaches were, but it's pretty interesting. It's like a flat disc of a peach.
Yeah, they look so weird.
Yeah.
Super like sweet peaches, essentially, like sweet white peaches. So.
Yeah,
Nice.
they're
Yeah.
delicious.
Oh yeah.
But I was definitely bugging it must have been Diana, but I was bugging her like, is this gonna get distro? Because I had to have it to pair it with the record.
Nice.
And I think she was like, yeah, like we're gonna sell it, and like we'll the next week like we'll send out whatever we have like extra or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm not missing it, so I like drove out here specifically
Oh, awesome.
Hell yeah.
for that. But that was a delicious beer. But going with the fruit, do you guys have like certain farms that you like to work with? Like, what's that relationship like with?
Most all of it's coming from
Mostly,
McClug
yeah.
up in Michigan. So fresh, whole, never frozen, like local fruit that we process by hand,
Yeah.
feed to the beer essentially.
And do you guys get to go out there and check it all out too, or do you guys just kind of?
I have a couple of times gone to like their farm stand for pickups.
Yeah.
I haven't been to any of their actual farms yet.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of times where we've needed fruit or they didn't have it, or I don't remember what the situation was, but like I was just in Michigan and like found somebody on the side of the road just selling fruit. It was like, can we buy the rest of everything you have here? Yeah, so I think that was strawberries that I did that with.
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than like that,
Yeah, now we order
Mostly
enough
just-
fruit for them
yeah.
to drop off, so
Yeah.
it just shows up at the back door.
Nice.
makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are doing awesome stuff with that. And then, so I just want to ask about the barrel program again. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but do you guys, maybe brew things. I know there's some other breweries that maybe they'll intentionally brew things drier and intentionally brew another batch sweeter, and then to sort of with the concept of blending it in the end. Is that something you guys consider, or are you guys more we'll see what nature does and the yeast does, and we'll go from there?
For the
Stouts.
the like spirit barrel aged, those are definitely recipes are formulated to be maybe a little bit sweeter, maybe a little bit drier, higher alcohol, lower alcohol, different targets for different things, knowing like we'll need that component maybe later on. But the saisons are a little bit more experimental and a little bit more trying to be hands-off, unless it's like a specific barrel that we think its character would lend to a beer in a certain way, and then we're brewing that beer specifically for that barrel. So I guess
the other like part of that blend. Yeah, I feel like it happens more like after the fact of liking something with the saison rather than beforehand, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about letting it do its thing, and I think it was Mike. I was interviewing Mike, and I think he said that a lot of brewing is controlling yeast, but with him and with saison brewing, it's more about making the yeast happy and let it do its thing, and run wild to a certain extent, I guess.
Yeah,
there's a limit, but there's something artistic about that as well, I think. So
it's been probably our largest fascination with doing spontaneous brewing, because then you're not even controlling the yeast that you're adding.
Yeah.
So.
Which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like when we went out to Brussels, it was like, this is what I want to do. Like I love saison, but spontaneous beer is definitely
so hands
the most
off.
interesting beer to me.
Hands off, but I don't know.
But speaking of that, you guys got a cool ship in last October.
Yeah.
And I know, can you guys talk about maybe what beers you have put through that? Like, is there certain styles, or are you?
So initially it was just straight to the turbid mash and
trying to brew beer in the vein of lambic, if you will. Yeah.
Get just spontaneous brewing going immediately, and then it was kind of like after we did that, got a couple barrels of that put away. Still need to do more of it.
Definitely. Hoping for some more cold days this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, spring is coming quick.
Yeah.
But we were like, okay, what else can we play around with in doing this? So we've done a saison where we knocked out into it, threw a bunch of hops into it, and then went from there into oak and pitched yeast, and then that's been aging away for a little bit, and then we just packaged. We did a Kolsch where we knocked out into the coolship, because I was reading about German brewers using coolships for their lagers, and I'm pretty sure they don't leave it overnight. They just use it as sort of a quick cooling method. But we decided to leave it overnight to hopefully pick up some wild yeast, and then we went from there into stainless and fermented with Kolsch yeast in there. And so that's recently been packaged, and
should be ready to release like end of the month ish.
Nice. Yeah, I know Dovetail does, I think, coolship with everything. But I'm sure,
I've heard they go into it with every batch as well. Yeah.
And for those who maybe don't know, that they're just like a lager brewery. I know they do some sours, but mostly lagers. So I guess, what's the status of the spontaneous program? Are you guys going to the plan is just to continue to grow that?
Definitely want to grow that. If not just for ourselves, but maybe
right. Hopefully for people too. Yeah.
And then just to speak to the relationship you guys have, we've been talking about brewing, but do you guys sort of, in terms of picking what you're gonna brew, do like one of you maybe specialize in one thing or the other, or do you guys kind of just try to come to a consensus of what's gonna be on the brew deck the next brew day?
We'll typically talk everything over and bounce ideas back and forth, and whether it's something you drank recently or saw or whatever it is, and then kind of be like, what if we did something like this? And I don't know. We bounce a lot of ideas back and forth constantly.
If it's something that we just want to drink, it's like, you know what? I'd really like to drink something that like maybe had some smoked character to it. And it's like, all right, maybe we should finally do a smoked beer. So
have you guys done that?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
There's talks. That's probably going to happen soon.
There's that's one of those things that people either love it or hate it, but it can be like a beautiful expression of things. I know like Mike has done a couple different smoked iterations.
Oh, the one with the smoked corn, right? Was that with Funky Town?
Oh, he did that too.
That was unbelievable.
That was really
I really enjoyed that beer.
He had Wisp too, which was like the wind smoked or something. That was awesome. But again, we just talked about Mike again, but so collaborations. I know you guys collabed with him, but what's your guys' experience been with collaborations? I know you guys have done Roaring Table was, and I don't know if I'm missing any.
I think that's it. That's it so far. We're actually about to collaborate with Roaring Table again. We're going to do another beer decoupage with him. And we've been talking with Mike about collaborating again. Talked with some
involving the cool show.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk of collaboration with people, but not a ton of collaborating. I feel like stuff gets like brought up and then sort of like kind of let simmer for maybe too long and then kind of fizzles.
Yeah.
But definitely looking to do more collabs this year. I feel like when we had first opened, we had no time to like. It was just come in here and brew as much as you possibly can, fill all the oak, fill all the fermenters, package stuff, and then fill it again. Like so, it was like felt very much like a rat race for the first 6 months or so. And I feel like now we're coming into a point where we could consider and do more collabs with people.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that it's like, I mean, I don't brew, but there's something unique about what you guys are doing, because you guys aren't only having to have stuff for people to drink currently, but a lot of the styles that you guys are doing is something that gets tucked away for months, maybe 12 months plus at a time. So it's, you guys are brewing a ton of beer, but you're not even going to see like the benefit of that for months. And so it's just that contributes to that rat race, like you were.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
And then jumping back to the cool ship, you mentioned it again. When I first got into beer and I first started hearing about cool ships, I had this like romantic notion that it's like, oh, you have to do it in like Michigan where the fruit trees are. But then you hear about like Cantillon, and I've heard that they just open the windows and they're in a major metropolitan area with like cars driving by.
Yeah.
And I think there's something funny about that. And I mean, Barrington's not as industrial as like, it's not like you're in Chicago, like downtown Chicago or anything. But I guess you guys have had good experience with that, and it's been working out, and you guys have been picking up stuff. Are you guys like trying to send that to a lab and figure out what you guys are picking up, or are you guys just kind of winging it right now?
We haven't yet.
But I would be interested in the future. For sure, to see what that looks like.
That is awesome. All right, so I'm gonna jump into some of the maybe things about like the, I don't know if you want to call it like the business side, but I know you guys have like a barrel society, and I don't know what's the name of it.
The Barrel Collective.
The Barrel Collective. Do you guys want to talk about what that's like a little bit?
Yeah, the Barrel Collective is our membership program. We allow members to sign up once a year for a full month. So this year will be the entire month of July. So the 2 weeks leading up to our anniversary party, the day of our anniversary, and then the 2 weeks post the anniversary party. Flat fee for the year, $1 off full pours, 2 members only events that are catered on us, and then 2 members only bottles, as well as members only shirt. But yeah, we had our first party, end of January, early February. And it was great turnout of people. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Everybody kind of bared with us because it was me and Ian bartending here, so we didn't have a ton of time to like chit chat or like kind of help direct traffic with what was going on with the food and whatnot.
Have you guys released the members only bottles yet?
So the members only bottles we gave, they were free to the members, but we only packaged enough for them and then for the staff here and ourselves.
I was going to ask what it was.
It was actually a pull from a barrel that we've been running a Solera program on that had we put like threads of 7-8 different brews or something, or
Something
6-7
like that.
brews, something like
it had
that.
quite a few different saisons that went through it that we would sort of pull from it whenever we needed like a little bit more for
Fruit.
or for a certain blend, like coupage du village or whatever it is, and then we kept topping it up. But then it got really interesting when we brewed our like farmhouse mild, or sort of like a real low ABV old brewing, if you will. It's somewhere in between. They're fresh. It's very much so like a mild.
Yeah.
So they got topped up with some of that, and then also got topped up with some wort from Spontaneous from a Cool Ship day.
Yeah.
And yeah, then it took a turn and got real interesting, and it was like, yeah, I really liked it. So we were like, this would be kind of cool to.
Right, and some of the saison, like the earlier on stuff, had soured, like not aggressively, but had some acidity. And I feel like whenever you have like, and then with that dark mild beer that got put in there, you get like a little of that malt character kind of working with the acidity. You get like a lot of like dark fruit character. And then with the aged hops in that beer, maybe, and even some of the saisons, and then definitely in the Spontaneous beer that went in there, it had like a nice, maybe not cheesy, but like it had a nice aged hop character. So it was like, wow, that's really, really interesting. And then because we went in to pull from barrels just to try to put together a blend for the members, and then we tasted that Solera barrel, and I was like, oh, it's right here, it's already done. Like this is like, I would be very happy to drink this. And yeah, it was well received that night. But yeah, definitely plan on doing more stuff like that as time goes by. Especially get a fooder in here and do some larger batch stuff like that, so that we can release it to everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to sort of like emphasize the importance of that. And if I lived closer, I definitely would be taking advantage of that. Then with the taproom, you guys are, I think, just watching on Instagram, pretty epic about having events. Like you guys have people come in here and do various things, and you guys have like the food trucks and the food pop-ups. But some of the more interesting things are like the charcuterie classes you guys hold. I think that's pretty cool. The Blooms and Brew, where people are coming in and
The floral arrangement classes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like outside the
She's
box.
really cool. She lives here in Barrington, and she grows all of those flowers on her property. Yeah, she brought in some honey for us as well, and it was unbelievably good. So I've been trying to like nag her now to like, hey, can we?
If we could buy some of that. Yeah. Very bright, like beautiful floral honey. That's not that the honey that we don't love as is, but hers had a really nice character that we were interested in using more of.
It was much brighter
right.
than any other honeys I've tried. A lot more like citrus and high floral notes in there.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I just did an interview with a guy who is a beekeeper around the city. He works with like hives. It's called the Hive Supply, but he works with like Right Beside Her and Iswas and stuff like that.
Nice.
And the discussion of where the bees are sourcing from and like how much that can change the taste of the honey is pretty crazy. So it's just like another element to add like a terroir to your beer or honey style.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to point that out because it's like you guys aren't just doing like trivia nights or whatever. Nothing wrong with that, but you guys are doing some like pretty cool ideas.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then in the tap room, for those who don't like beer, do you guys still have like wine and you guys have like a little bit of food?
Yes.
Yeah, wine and cider.
We've got a little wine selection that we kind of put together that we like, and cider as well. We typically will push whatever we can get from Eric Bordelais.
Yeah.
And then do you guys still have, I know you mentioned before, plans of doing a kitchen. Is that still kind of in the juggling?
There's definitely still talks of it.
Definitely still
got to figure out
talking that one out, trying to figure out
where,
how and where, and
most financially reasonable way to go about doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, with your background in restaurants, it would be a good duo there. And I know you guys self-distribute, but for those who may be listening in the city, what are some of the places you guys drop off at?
Down in Chicago, the Beer Temple has been a huge supporter of ours, as well as Beer Miscuous over in Lakeview East. The people over at Hop Leaf. Stephanie is their beer buyer. She actually just brought our stuff in, which was really awesome of her, as well as a little place just up the street from them called Little Bad Wolf.
Yeah, that place. I used to live in Andersonville.
Nice, yeah, beautiful area.
Pre-kids.
Nice, yeah, very nice, very nice. But yeah, right now, I think in the city it's just the 4 of them, and then fair amount of accounts in between here and there. Some out northwest of here as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, there is a way to get your hands on this for those who are in there. And then, so we are at the Ice House Mall. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. Yeah, Ice House Mall in Barrington, which is I don't know, it's like where the IKEA is, and then just straight up Barrington Road. Is that right? I'm like, or am I making that up? You guys are out towards IKEA, but north of IKEA.
Yes.
Yeah, just some frame of reference. Where can people find you guys digitally?
Digitally, definitely Instagram stays the most up to date, I would say, and Facebook as well.
Yeah, they're just mirrored or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we also have a website, sundialbrewingandblending.com, that has an event page that you could definitely use to stay up to date as well. But Instagram tends to see the update sooner than the website.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so do you guys have anything else you want to say before we jump into the outro questions?
Oh, we're doing the speed round?
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
All right, so I've never done this with 2 people before, so we'll take turns. We'll do Mike first since he's right in front of me. Or maybe we'll flip back and forth.
That could be.
All right, so Mike first with number 1. Favorite beverage, doesn't have to be alcoholic.
I mean, the beer nerd in me just wants to say goose. Yeah, that or Lagavulin.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
peated malt scotch is definitely I'm a huge fan of as well.
Nice.
My mind went straight to chartreuse.
Oh, very nice. See, how did I forget that?
Just because we were trying some the other day, and that was it's
fresh
so
on the
good.
mind.
God,
Yeah,
it's so good. Yeah, it's fresh on the mind.
And that's like super hard to find right now, I feel like.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, we've got a buddy who's obsessively collecting it, and so thankfully for him.
right.
All right, so Ian, we'll start with you in number 2. A song everyone should listen to. And I'm making a Spotify playlist where I'm adding everyone's answers to this.
Should have started with him on this one.
We can jump if you want to.
That's you, man.
And this can be, I mean, I've had people say like
Just
pop
say-
songs. I've had people say like metal songs. I've had people like,
Oh man, anything?
Aphex
No, yeah, I wasn't gonna go there.
what did you say?
Aphex Twin. He
Oh.
listens to a lot of Aphex Twins.
Yeah, anything from Krungbin.
Oh,
We'll go safe on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick
A specific?
maybe a specific
No.
song. I'll just pick one for you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll pick one for you. Do you want Leon Bridges or do you want without Leon?
He wants without
Without,
lyrics.
yeah.
He's not.
Ah,
he's a
okay.
no lyric sort of guy over here on my left.
That's awesome though. I'm a big fan. I've sort of like been finding things similar, but also different because they are getting very unique. But there's a lot of similar things out there.
Yeah, there's that other group that they all wear the masks. It's very similar.
I don't know that.
Glass beams.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check. There's like a big movement in Australia right now. Have you heard of like Surprise Chef?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yes,
yeah.
I
You showed
have
them to
heard.
me, right?
Karate
Yeah,
Boogaloo. Yeah,
Yeah.
that whole. I don't know what their label is, but they're like I feel like they're all on the same label. But I feel like Karate Boogaloo might even just sign with like Coal Mine, like one of the local like Ohio-based. But no, I love that
Nice.
stuff too.
One track that always comes to mind when anybody asks me like what my favorite song is, or like obviously I can't pick one, but the one track that always comes to mind is Mad Villainy Accordion.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs. I love that track.
awesome. I'm
Nice.
happy to. I think you might be the first Doom on the playlist. I'm
Yes.
happy. All right, so we're back to Mike to start. Favorite concert you've been to?
So it was one of the times that I saw Kamasi Washington.
Oh.
I
Either
know
one
tell
of
the
the
Sam I Am story.
either one of the two.
Sam I Am, like the beat maker. Sam I
Yeah,
Am?
yeah. There's I tend to retell stories to people that I spend a lot of time with. So there's a running joke about
Fly M Sam.
it was a New Year's run that STS9 did in Atlanta, and I went to all the after party shows. So I'm not going to tell the story because it would, it would make this guy too happy. But yeah, one of the Kamasi shows that I went to, I saw him open for Herbie Hancock in Chicago at whatever that Huntington Pavilion, there, that kind of out on the outskirts, and it faces the skyline of the city, beautiful.
Yeah.
They all came out and did like a super jam at the end, and Kamasi's dad, who's I'm sure a huge fan of Herbie, right around the same age, they got to play together, and he's just like playing the flute, crying on stage. It was beautiful.
That's awesome.
And before that, I saw him at is it the Bottom Lounge? Is that the one that's like just north of like Fulton Market District? Is that the Bottom Lounge? Yeah, I saw him play there, and that was a really, really good show too.
That's like a way different venue.
Yeah, it was years beforehand, and he was a smaller artist then, but it was like super intimate, and the sound was great, especially with all that noise in that little room.
Yeah. I feel like I want to talk about music with you guys like after. I'm not gonna. I won't drag this on too long. So, favorite concert you've been to?
I have two that come to mind, but
I mean, you can say them both. I know.
I have one's the LTJ Buckham show that we went to
that was good
at Smart Bar. Yeah, that was a great night. Of course, he played Atlantis, and that was, it was a moment. And the other one was just a fun night, and that was the rave where Shlomo played, and it got busted.
Oh. Yeah, that was a great night. That we saw him at the Bottom Lounge earlier that night, didn't we?
Yeah, that whole night.
Yeah, it was like right when Shlomo released the it was after Bad Vibes, right? It was the album after that. I forget what it was called.
And then also seeing him at the Beauty Bar.
That was unbelievable. That was a great night.
Yeah.
You guys go to a lot of shows.
We used to. Yeah.
we used to go to a lot.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah, I used to too, but now we have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
Other stuff takes over, right?
It's a little busy and trying to do this. So number 4, I think I'm back on Ian. Favorite place you've had a drink?
Driefontein.
Yeah, there.
Or Sundial. No.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, well, if you can't make it there, then come to Sundial.
Right. If you're not in Brussels, yeah, right. Yeah, that or like the Insurance against Great Thirst. That was a lot of fun.
What is that?
It's a lambic bar, like about 40 minutes directly west of the downtown Brussels.
Oh, okay.
And it's
only
like
open on Sunday.
Yeah, it's like right at the end of this street next to this old church, and like we got there just before church let out and grabbed the seat and settled in, and then the church bells started ringing, and the whole place just completely filled with people.
All like elderly.
Yeah, like older dudes in there just drinking.
Timmermans.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was awesome.
It's definitely a vibe.
Ceilings covered in like old hop vines, so it just smells like cheese in there. It was awesome. That's a place is interesting.
Death and Company in Los Angeles was also an awesome place to have a cocktail. That was a lot of fun.
Nice. All right, number 5. Mike, what's your guilty pleasure for music?
I mean, I feel like it kind of always has been and still tends to be Ja Rule.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
We used to spin. Yeah. We used to just play records for each other and our friends, like have parties and like set up turntables and spin a lot of like EDM and like he brought up LTJ Buckham, like old school, like jungle from the UK and like all this really like pretty serious music. And then like he would like play a few tracks and then I'd come on to play a few tracks and I'd put on like Ja Rule, like Living It Up, or like Nelly, like Air Force Ones, and he just like shaking his head at me, like completely shattered the vibe. But yeah, Ja Rule, rosé on the patio at my brother's house. Come on,
I'm right there with you.
I know you. Yeah.
You going Ja Rule too?
Yeah, that's a great vibe. I've been there for many of those sessions, and it's a great time.
All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and having me out here. So until next time, there goes the phone.
Yeah,
perfect timing.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, appreciate you coming out, man.
Thank you. All right, drink some new beer and listen to some new music. Cheers.
Cheers.